Welcome to Short Scale Modelling. This is part 6 of Revell's Star Trek USS Voyager Intrepid class. Scale is 1 to 677. In this part 6, I'm going to be carrying on placing in some lights. So I'm hoping to get into the nacelles and the lower hull, all depending on time. So let's jump into this and see how well I get on. To start with, I'm opening up the areas for the aft torpedo launches. Now, I actually forgot to do this while I was opening up the windows, so I'm just prepping the holes for that. These were slightly awkward to open up, just because the nature of the part. It sort of sweeps and bends, so it's quite difficult to get my drill in and open them up. But what I'm doing here is just making a little pilot hole before I could get the drill in. And then that enabled me to get the drill in before removing all the excess plastic. And like before with the windows, I'm just using my hobby knife to do that. And I'm using Revell 301 white silk just to paint over the grey area that I painted into a light block. And this is just to help reflect the light. So I was just about to go into the nacelles, and I noticed on the rear part of the Voyager, there's a window that should be cut out. There's no provisions in the kit for a window for this, so I'm having to just make up one as I go along. So first of all, I'm just removing the excess plastic. Now, it is defined on the mold itself, but I think there's probably a decal or something that goes in there instead of a clear window. And once I've moved the excess plastic, I'm just tidying it up now with my hobby knife, and I'll file it down a little bit as well, of course. And I'm just taking little bits at a time, and each time I'm just checking to fit to make sure everything is stable, as in the joint is going to be stable and it will line up. So as you can see there, it's starting to line up quite well. Now, as luck would have it, this kit came with a couple of extra clear sprues, so I've got extra windows. And one of the curved ones that's part of the saucer section does actually fit inside this. I'll need a little bit of modification because obviously it's too tall. So I'll trim that up, but the actual fit works out quite well. So I'm just using my side cutters, just taking little bits off at a time once more and checking for fit as I go along. And it's really advisable and best if you just do this a little bits at a time, so that you're not going to be taking too much of it. It's on standard, but sometimes, myself included, I'll just jump in and take off too much too quickly. Then you realise you have to go and refill it and things like that. So it's always advisable just to take little bits at a time. So this is what I'm doing here, just filing down, taking off little microns each time and fitting it. It does take a long time to do, but it is worth it. I've got the length to fit, so I'm just taking off the excess height now, and I'm using my little Japanese saw here to just cut off the excess. This is a straight saw, and it gives a straight cut. There's various brands out there that you can have, but they're all essentially the same. And it's coming close to being done now. As I said, this takes quite a long time, but it's worth doing. So I'm just testing the fit once more, and you can see it there starting to form. So it's time to place it in, and use a micro crystal clear for the canopy glue to place this in. I'm putting quite a lot on, because just in case there is any gaps. This will also act as a filler if need be, and you can paint directly onto it. It's a nice little tip that if you're using this stuff. And then I simply push the window in position. The canopy glue will smear out slightly because I use excess amount, but just clean it off with a damp towel or something like that to smoothen it all out. If it goes onto the glass, it's okay because it will dry absolutely clear anyway. When I place the lights in, the lights are going to be a bit too bright, so I need to diffuse that light somehow. So what I'm using here is a sweet wrapper, a cellophane sweet wrapper from something like Quality Street Roses, that sort of thing. And I'm just placing it over the inside of the window, attaching it with some canopy glue, and that will diffuse the light as it shines through. The colour won't really matter because the colour of the LED or the diode will actually still come through. And I should say, the colour of the diode will only come through at its own colour because the light is going to be placed fairly close to the actual window itself. If it was further back, then the blue colour of the cellophane would start to show. Now, because we're placing the diodes directly into this, there's going to be quite a lot of light blocking needing to be done. Now, there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can carry on with the couple of layers of paint inside to start building up those colours to block, or you can do it this way. So this is a nice little cheap way to do it. What I've got here is some insulated tape or electrical tape, and I'm just cutting little strips off and placing it where the diode is going to be. Because I'm going to be having a red and a green and yellow in this, they're lined directly onto the plastic as such. So, but the light is only going to come through certain parts. So if I just block off the colour around that area, then I'll make sure the light then only comes through those particular areas that I wish. Now, if you can't be bothered to cut little strips out and do it precise, the other way of doing it is just putting down a single strip of tape, and if you have a location hole, which I do for this case, you can just simply push a needle or something through, or your pen drive to create a hole. If you do it that way, you're just going to make sure that the hole is big enough coming through the tape, because it's a tape, it'll sort of self-seal a little bit. So you just have to make sure it is going to be open enough once the light goes directly onto it. So I'll do it a couple of times, make sure you have got that access. Before I start attaching, there's a couple of tiny amounts of light bleed I'm going to be having to sort out, and they're just along the same line, nothing too major. So I'm just putting a little bit of Voyager filler in here, and that'll just block out any light bleeds that I'm going to have. So now I'm preparing to put the lights in. So what I've done here is I've taken the struts for the bottom cells, placed them on, but I haven't attached them. They just help with the clamps, and I've ran a piece of wire from each strut to connect them, and I'm just soldering them up there so they become one unit. And the wire is bare mostly because I'll be attaching other pieces of wire onto that. So then I've taken some 3mm diodes, and I've placed them in. As you can see there, if you can see my hair getting in the way, the red one's going in. I've already wired these up. I didn't bother showing you the wiring them because I've shown you that before. Once it's secured with a little bit of insulating tape or electrical tape, I connect the bare wires together, and I simply just twist that around the bridge wire that I did between the two struts. So as always, once I've connected the two before I solder, I'm just going to do my light test to make sure it's actually going to come on. So what I'm looking for is the diode to come on and the two struts to come on as well. This is the first time I've done this, so let's see. Yeah, everything is on, so that's good. So I can now proceed to the next part. And I'm just putting the last diode in now. So we have the red, we have a yellow, and now we have the green going in. And they're all connected to the same way to that bridge part of the wire between the two struts. Negative to negative, positive to positive, of course. And they're all secured down with a little bit of glue and extra security, just a little bit of insulating tape as well. I should point out as well, you can run around very quickly when doing this, especially when you're connecting the two wires together. Now you can buy actual connectors nowadays that make them just plug and play. You just push them in and then connect them that way. I don't have any of them, so I'm doing it the old-fashioned way. I'm connecting the wires to the wires, and I simply just twist them around or onto the each other, and then once the connection is secure, I will light test and then solder. So that's all the lights in for this part. So again, with the light test to see if everything's coming on. So we can see all the lights coming on now, from the struts to the rear part, from the red, green and yellow. Now the next thing to do is to have two connecting wires, two lead wires. These are the wires that are going to be connected to the rest of the build. these are connected in exactly the same way, just two strips of wire cut down to size, and I'm placing the wire around the connection points. And of course, once more a light test because I have done something different to it. So once that's all done, I placed a bit of kitchen towel underneath everything, and I'm starting to solder. I do apologise about my head being in the way, but I have to get down quite low for this because my eyesight is quite poor nowadays. So my head's getting in the way, unfortunately. But the solder is a fairly simple process. The main part is just to make sure everything is touching and secure. And then I simply cover up any bare wire with a bit of electrical tape. And to keep everything in position and secure, just a little bit of super glue underneath parts of the wire, and pressing it down onto the base just to make sure nothing will move once I close up the unit. And that's the next job, is to put everything together. As you can see, the workman cells are still not attached. That will be done after the bottom part of the hull goes together, and it just pushes in. If you've made sure that the wires are not anywhere near the location points on this, it shouldn't have any problem with it all fitting together. Now I put some G-clamps on there just to make sure it is going to go together, and now it's time to attach the struts, and that's just a little bit of cement into the location points and pushing them straight. Now I'm not having any movement on these, so it's okay just to bung them all up with a little bit of cement. The key point really is to get them in alignment. That's the most difficult part of this particular part of the build. So once everything is dry, it's time for the next light test, and as you can see there, I do have one or two little light blades which will need to be sorted out, and they'll just be sorted out with the Voyager plastic putty once more. The gaps there look bigger than they actually are, just that the light's that powerful, it's coming right through. It's an easy fix. And once I do that, this is where I'll end the part 6. So if you haven't done so already, why don't you go and check out the channel for my other videos, particularly for this build. If you subscribe to the channel, and please do so, make sure you hit the notification bell. That way you'll be kept up to date, not only with this build, but all my future builds as well, of course. Hit the like button, don't be afraid to leave a comment, and of course you can share the video. But for now, thank you all very much for watching. Bye bye.